$7,000 a week, tax-free, paid in cash, in a heavy envelope that smells like ozone and burnt hair. That is the only reason I am writing this. That is the only reason I am still sitting in this booth staring at a security monitor that shows a parking lot that shouldn't exist. I need you to understand that I am not a superstitious person. I don't believe in ghosts, I don't buy into the cryptic nonsense you see on Reddit threads about stairs in the woods or gas stations that appear out of thin air. Or at least I didn't. Not until the eviction notice was stapled to my door and my bank account hit -3 digits. Desperation has a funny way of suspending your disbelief. When you are hungry enough, you will ignore the red flags. You will ignore the gut instinct that screams at you to turn the car around. I found the listing on a job board that I'm pretty sure isn't indexed by Google. I was looking for night shift work, security guard, janitor, warehouse stocking, anything that didn't require me to talk to people. The ad was simple, too simple. It just said Night Auditor. The location was listed as a coordinate rather than an address. The requirements were bizarre. Must be comfortable with isolation, must have no immediate family, must not be religious. I fit the bill. The interview wasn't an interview, it was a phone call that lasted 30 seconds. A voice that sounded like it was being synthesized through a gravel crusher asked me if I could stay awake for 12 hours straight. I said yes. They told me to drive to the coordinates. They said the money would be on the counter. The drive took me 6 hours. I live in the Midwest, so I am used to long stretches of nothing. Cornfields, flat horizons, the occasional billboard for a relentless personal injury lawyer. But this was different. As I drove further away from the interstate, the world started to feel thin. You know that feeling when you are half asleep and the dimensions of your room feel wrong? Like the walls are too far away. That is what the drive felt like. The GPS on my phone died about an hour out. Not just lost signal, but the screen went black and refused to turn back on. The radio turned into a wall of white noise that fluctuated in pitch, sounding almost like weeping if you listened too hard. So I turned it off. I drove in silence. The scenery changed from cornfields to dense, suffocating woods, the kind of woods where the trees grow too close together, blocking out the moonlight. I saw things in the periphery, pale shapes darting between the trunks, deer that stood on 2 legs. I kept my eyes on the asphalt. I told myself it was just pareidolia, just my tired brain making monsters out of shadows. Then the fog rolled in. Thick, gray, and unnatural. It didn't swirl, it just hung there, suspended. And then, out of the gray, the neon sign flickered into existence. The Last Stop Motor Lodge. It looked like a relic from the 1970s, a single-story motel wrapped in a U-shape around a cracked concrete parking lot. The paint was a peeling beige. The doors were a rusted teal. It looked exactly like every roadside motel in every horror movie you have ever seen, except for the sky. There were no stars, just a flat, oppressive darkness that felt like a ceiling painted black. I parked my beat-up sedan next to a pristine vintage Cadillac that looked brand new. The silence was absolute. No crickets, no wind in the trees, just the low, electric hum of the vacancy sign. Buzz, click, buzz. I walked into the lobby. It smelled like stale coffee and old carpet, mixed with that sharp, metallic scent of ozone. Behind the front desk stood a man. He was tall, wearing a suit that fit him perfectly, too perfectly, like it was tailored to his skin rather than his body. His name tag simply read, Manager. He didn't blink. I watched him for a full minute and his eyelids never moved. "You are late," he said. His voice was smooth, devoid of any accent, yet it vibrated in my chest. I apologized, blaming the fog. He waved a hand dismissively. "The guests are restless tonight," he said, sliding a heavy manila envelope across the counter. "Your payment, first week in advance." I opened it. It was full of $100 bills, real ones.
I checked the watermarks, I checked the strips. It was real. The relief that washed over me was so intense it almost made me dizzy. I didn't care about the weird sky or the unblinking man. I had enough money in my hand to fix my life. He slid a thick black binder across the desk next. "These are the protocols," he said. "Follow them. Do not deviate. The shift ends at 6 a.m. Do not leave the desk before 6 a.m. Do not let anyone in. Do not let anyone out." And then he walked out the back door. Just like that. I was alone. I settled into the chair. It was comfortable, expensive leather. I looked at the security monitors. There were 12 cameras. Camera 1 showed the lobby. Camera 2 showed the parking lot. Camera 3 through 10 showed the hallways. Camera 11 showed the pool, which was filled with a black liquid that definitely wasn't water. Camera 12 was just static. I took a deep breath, listening to the silence of the empty lobby, and opened the black binder. The first page wasn't a welcome letter. It wasn't an HR document. It was a handwritten note, scrawled in frantic, jagged letters. The ink looked like it had been pressed into the paper with desperate force. It read, "If you are reading this, you took the money. I don't blame you. The money is good.
But you need to listen to me very carefully. This isn't a hotel. It's a filtration system. The things in the rooms aren't people. They are echoes. They are mistakes. And the manager? He isn't human. He isn't even a demon. He is the landlord of the space between places. I survived 6 months here. I am leaving this list because the last guy didn't leave anything for me, and I almost lost my soul on the first night because I answered the phone. Do not answer the phone." I felt a chill crawl up my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. I turned the page. The rules were typed out, numbered, and laminated. Some of them had handwritten notes in the margins, corrections from the previous survivor. Rule number 1. The lobby is your sanctuary. As long as you are behind the desk, nothing can touch you. Do not cross the threshold of the front desk between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. If you drop a pen, leave it. If you drop your phone, leave it. If you see a child crying on the other side of the counter asking for their mother, do not reach out to comfort them. It is not a child. It is a lure. Rule number 2. The phone will ring at 12:15 a.m. As the note said, do not answer it. However, you must pick up the receiver and immediately hang it up. If you let it ring more than 3 times, the noise will wake the thing in room 104. You do not want to wake the thing in room 104. It hates noise, and it will come to the lobby to silence the source. Rule number 3. If a guest approaches the desk asking for a wake-up call, check their eyes. If they have pupils, write down the time and nod. If their eyes are solid white, or if they have no eyes at all, tell them, "We do not have that service available at this time." Apologize profusely. They will be angry. They might scream. They might slam their fists on the glass. Do not look away. Maintain eye contact or look at where their eyes should be until they leave. Showing fear is a breach of contract. Rule number 4. There is a vending machine in the hallway on camera 4. It emits a low blue light. Sometimes you will see a reflection in the glass of the machine on the monitor, a tall, slender figure standing behind you. Do not turn around. Do not look at the reflection directly. Look at the monitor. It is just checking if you are working. If you turn around, it will take that as an invitation to interact. You have nothing at once except your skin. Rule number 5. At 2 a.m., the lights in the parking lot will go out. This is normal. If they come back on and the light is red instead of white, hide under the desk. Close your eyes, cover your ears. Do not come out until you hear the sound of a heavy diesel engine driving away. That is the delivery truck. You do not want to know what they are delivering. You do not want to see the drivers. Rule number 6. If you see a woman in a yellow dress wandering the parking lot on camera 2, do not call the police.
Do not go outside to help her. She is looking for a ride home. If she sees you looking at her through the camera, she will know you are watching. She can move through the screens. I don't know how to explain it, but if she locks eyes with you through the monitor, she will start walking toward the camera. If she gets too close, cut the feed. Cut it immediately. If she reaches the lens, she comes out of the screen. I stopped reading. My hands were trembling. I looked up at the monitors. Camera 2 showing the parking lot. The lights were flickering. And there, standing under the buzzing neon sign, was a woman. She was wearing a yellow dress. She was facing away from the camera, her head bowed. I held my breath, my finger hovering over the button to cut the feed. Just as I was about to look away, she snapped her head up. She spun around, her neck twisted at an angle that should have snapped her spine. She looked directly into the lens. She smiled, and then she took a step forward. I slammed my hand down on the power button for camera 2. The screen went black. I sat back, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked at the clock. It was 12:14 a.m. The phone began to ring.
I found the binder sitting on the concierge desk my first night here. It wasn't leather, it felt like skin, warm to the touch, and it smelled like ozone and old pennies. There was no welcome packet, no HR orientation, and definitely no exit interview. Just this binder. The title page simply read, Employee Handbook, Night Shift Protocol. I'm transcribing this now because my shift ends in 20 minutes, and the shadows in the lobby are starting to get longer than the objects casting them. If you are reading this, maybe you applied for that vague hospitality listing on Craigslist. Maybe you took a wrong turn off the interstate and ended up in this parking lot that never seems to see the sun. Whatever the reason, you're here now. Listen to me. The guests here aren't like normal people. They are transient. They are waiting for judgment. And the management? You don't want to meet management. Here are the rules. I've added my own notes because the official text is too clinical. It doesn't tell you about the smell. It doesn't tell you about the screaming. Read this. Memorize it. It's the only way you clock out alive. Rule number 1. The check-in process is purely symbolic, but you must complete it with absolute seriousness. When a guest approaches the desk, they will likely appear confused. Some might look like they've been in a car accident. Some might be dripping wet. Some might look perfectly fine until they turn around and you see the back of their head is missing. Do not react. Do not scream. Do not offer them a towel. Ask for their reservation. They won't have one. You must pretend to type on the keyboard. The computer hasn't worked since 1994. Type anyway. Nod solemnly, hand them a brass key. It doesn't matter what room number is on it. The key will lead them where they deserve to go. If a guest hands you a credit card that feels cold, like a block of ice, drop it immediately. Do not let your skin touch the embossed numbers. If you do, you will begin to remember their sins as if they were your own. The last night porter touched a platinum card from a man in a pinstripe suit. He clawed his own eyes out in the break room before sunrise. Use the tongs provided in the top drawer. Rule number 2. Ignore the elevator on the left. We have 2 elevators. The one on the right is for guests. It works fine, though it occasionally descends into a basement that isn't on the blueprints. The one on the left, however, is the service elevator. It will open on its own at 3:33 a.m. Always 3:33 a.m. Inside, you will see a bellhop. He will be wearing a pristine uniform that dates back to the 1920s. He will not have a face. It will just be a smooth surface of pale flesh where his eyes and mouth should be.
He will ask you, using a voice that sounds like it's coming from inside your own skull, if you have any luggage for the penthouse. You must reply, exactly. The master is not receiving guests tonight. If you say anything else, or if you step inside that elevator, the doors will close. We don't know where it goes, but we hear the sounds coming from the shaft. It sounds like a meat grinder processing wet gravel. Just wait for the doors to close. Do not look at his reflection in the brass railing. Rule number 3. Housekeeping is forbidden on the 4th floor. There is no 4th floor button on the elevator, but there is a stairwell door propped open with a fire extinguisher. If you find yourself walking up the stairs and you see the number 4 painted on the wall in something that looks like rust, turn around, walk backward down the stairs. Do not turn your back to the landing until you reach the 3rd floor. The things that live on the 4th floor are the ones that didn't make the cut. They are the mistakes. They are hungry and they are very, very fast. If you hear a sound like wet, bare feet slapping against concrete coming down the stairs behind you, do not run. Running triggers their predatory instinct. Walk at a brisk, purposeful pace. If you feel breath on your neck that smells like sour milk, apologize for the intrusion. Say, "I am just the help." Sometimes they listen. Rule number 4. Do not acknowledge the weeping woman in the lobby restrooms. You will hear her during your rounds. It's a sobbing sound, heart-wrenching, the sound of a mother who has lost everything. It is a trap. It is an auditory lure designed to prey on your empathy. If you enter the restroom, you will see her standing in front of the mirror, washing her hands. The water will be red. She will ask you to help her find her baby. Do not speak to her. Do not look in the mirror. If you look in the mirror, you won't see her reflection. You will see yourself, but you'll be aged 50 years, rotting with your skin sloughing off your bones. The moment you engage with her, you swap places. You become the tragedy trapped in the porcelain tiles, and she walks out wearing your name tag and your skin. I saw my friend Marcus go in there 3 weeks ago. Marcus came out, but he walked with a limp he didn't have before, and he smiled at me with too many teeth. Rule number 5. The vending machine only accepts currency of the soul. You're going to get hungry. The shift is 12 hours long, but it feels like weeks. The vending machine in the employee lounge glows with a humming ultraviolet light. It stocks normal things, chips, soda, candy bars, but there are no prices. The coin slot is razor sharp. To make a purchase, you have to slide your finger in.
It will take a payment of blood. A bag of chips is a minor cut. A soda is a deep slice. If you want the sandwich on the bottom row, you might lose a fingertip. The food tastes like ash, but it keeps you tethered to this reality. If you stop eating, you start to fade. You become like the guests, transparent, forgotten. Eat the ash, pay the blood. It's better than the alternative. Rule number 6. If the phone at the front desk rings, count the rings. If it rings once, pick it up. It's the kitchen asking for a resupply of ice. If it rings twice, pick it up. It's the wake-up call service. Just hang up. If it rings 3 times, do not answer it. If it rings 4 times, unplug the phone from the wall. If it keeps ringing after you have unplugged it, leave the desk immediately. Go to the center of the lobby and stand under the chandelier. The caller is the owner. He is calling from the boiler room. He wants to know if you're doing a good job. He doesn't like silence, but he hates the sound of a human voice even more. If you answer, he will crawl through the receiver. I don't mean metaphorically. The plastic of the handset will stretch and tear like biological tissue, and something black and viscous will pour out. Standing under the chandelier is the only safe spot. The light burns him. He can't touch you there. Wait until the ringing stops. It might take hours. Your legs will cramp. You will want to sit. Don't. Rule number 7. Never, ever look outside the sliding glass doors at the entryway. The windows are tinted for a reason. You might think you see the parking lot. You might think you see your car. You might see the sunrise. It's a lie. Outside this hotel, there is nothing, just a gray, swirling void of static. If you stare into it for too long, the static starts to form shapes, giant, looming shapes that stride between the worlds. If they notice you noticing them, they will try to get in. The glass is not reinforced. It is fragile. Last week, a rookie named Sarah looked. She said she saw her mother waving at her from the parking lot. She unlocked the doors before I could tackle her. The thing that came in wasn't her mother. It was a mass of geometry and screaming mouths. We managed to lock it in the luggage storage room, but I can still hear it banging against the walls. Keep the doors locked. Keep the blinds down. There is no world outside of the hotel. Not until your shift ends. Those are the main ones. There are others. Don't eat the mints on the pillows. Don't pet the stray cat with the human eyes. Don't read the Bible in the drawer because the text changes to describe your own death. But these 7 will keep you alive. My shift is almost over. The sun is coming up. Or at least the version of the sun that exists here.
It looks like a bruised eye in the sky. I'm going to leave the binder here for you. I have to go now. The elevator on the left just dinged. It's 3:33 a.m. Wait, my watch says 3:33, but the wall clock says 4. The elevator doors are opening. The bellhop is stepping out. He's not asking for luggage. He's pointing at me. Oh God, I think I broke a rule I didn't know existed. Good luck. You're the new night manager now. Don't let the fire go out in the lobby. And whatever you do, don't let them check out. No one ever checks out. I never realized how loud silence could be until I started working the night shift at the Obsidian Arms. You probably know the feeling if you've ever driven through Nevada at 3 in the morning, fueled by lukewarm energy drinks and the creeping suspicion that the static on your radio is trying to speak to you. That feeling when you pull into a gas station that is too bright, too clean, and completely empty. That specific frequency of isolation. Now imagine that feeling stretched out into an 8-hour shift that lasts for eternity. I found the job listing on a forum buried deep in the dark web, sandwiched between threads about unsolved disappearances in national parks and leaked government documents about the Hollow Earth. It didn't say Devil's Hotel. It didn't say Purgatory. It just asked for a night auditor capable of discretion and disconnected from family ties. The pay was in gold Krugerrands or cryptocurrency that hadn't been invented yet. I was broke, desperate, and cynical. I thought I was signing up to clean up after cartel parties or hush-hush politicians. I was wrong. The lobby of the hotel is a lesson in liminal horror. It smells like ozone, stale cigarette smoke from the 1980s, and something sweet like rotting lilies. The decor is stuck in a time loop. Beige wallpaper that peels just enough to reveal wet gray concrete underneath, patterned carpet with geometric shapes that seem to shift when you catch them in your peripheral vision. It's a sensory deprivation tank disguised as hospitality. My station is the front desk. It's a heavy slab of mahogany that feels warm to the touch, like it has a pulse. Behind me is the key rack. We don't use key cards here. We use heavy brass keys with room numbers that don't always follow mathematical logic. Sometimes I look back and see room 302 next to room 999. Sometimes the keys are wet with a viscous black fluid. I don't touch them unless a guest checks in. And the guests, well, we aren't talking about them yet. Tonight, I need to talk about the building itself. Rule number 1 of the employee handbook states, do not stare at the inanimate objects for longer than 5 seconds. At first, I thought this was a joke, a hazing ritual for the new guy. Then, during my second week, I got lost staring at a potted fern near the elevators. It was plastic, dusty, fake green leaves. But as I stared, the dust didn't look like dust anymore. It looked like spores. The leaves didn't look like plastic. They looked like chitin, insect wings. I watched it for maybe 10 seconds, entranced by the way the artificial light hit it. Then the fern turned. Not moved in a draft, it turned. The leaves swiveled to face me like the head of a predatory bird. I felt a sharp pain behind my eyes. A nosebleed started instantly, and the phone on my desk rang. When I picked it up, there was just the sound of wet breathing. I don't look at the plants anymore. The lighting is the worst part. It's that yellow, sickly fluorescent hum. It buzzes, a constant, low-frequency drone that vibrates in your teeth. It's designed to make you tired, to lower your psychic defenses. Sometimes the lights flicker. In a normal hotel, that means faulty wiring. Here, it means something is moving through the electrical grid. When the lights dip,
the shadows in the lobby stretch. They don't stretch away from the light source, they stretch toward you. I spend a lot of my shift walking the corridors. The manager, a figure I have never seen, but whose memos appear on my desk written in elegant cursive on skin-like parchment, insists on patrols. Walking the 3rd floor is an exercise in madness. The hallway is long, impossibly long. When you step off the elevator, you see the vanishing point, but as you walk, the door at the end never seems to get closer. It's the treadmill effect. You walk past room 310, 311, 312, and then you pass room 310 again. The silence up here is heavy. It presses against your eardrums. It's not the absence of sound, it's the presence of a vacuum. You can hear your own heart beating, the friction of your clothes moving, the squeak of your rubber soles on the carpet. And sometimes you hear things that shouldn't be there. Last Tuesday, I was doing a rounds check on the 4th floor. The 4th floor is usually reserved for guests who are processing, repenting. I was walking past a vending machine that only sells snacks from brands that went bankrupt in the 90s. The machine hummed. Inside, a bag of chips fell, just fell. No one had touched it. Gravity just decided to work. I stopped. I looked at the machine. The reflection in the glass showed the hallway behind me. Empty, beige walls, sconces that looked like torches. But in the reflection, just at the edge of the glass, something was peeking out from a doorway. A head. Pale, too long, no hair, just eyes that reflected the light like a cat's. I remembered the training. Rule number 7, if you see something in a reflection that is not there in reality, do not turn around. Acknowledge it, but do not engage. Housekeeping, I said to the empty air. My voice cracked. It sounded dead, flat, absorbed by the carpet. The thing in the reflection didn't move. It just watched. I kept walking. I didn't run. Running triggers the predatory response of the architecture. If you run, the hallway stretches. If you run, the doors disappear. If you run, the carpet becomes quicksand. You have to walk with purpose.
You have to act like you belong here, even though every cell in your body is screaming that you are prey. The paranoia is a physical weight. It sits on your shoulders. You start to personify everything. The elevator isn't a machine. It's a throat that swallows you and spits you out on a different level. The ice machine isn't making ice, it's grinding bones. The paintings are the worst. They are all landscapes, dull, pastoral scenes of woods and lakes. But if you work here long enough, you notice the changes. There's a painting in the 2nd floor lobby, a cabin in the woods. When I started, the cabin door was closed. A month ago, the door was open. Last week, there was a figure standing in the doorway. Tonight, the figure was gone, and there were red footprints leading out of the frame and onto the matte border. I try to stay in the lobby as much as possible. It feels safer, or at least more controlled. I have my counter, I have the computer, though it doesn't connect to the internet, you know. It connects to an intranet that lists guests by their sins rather than their names. But even the lobby has its moments. Around 3 a.m., the atmosphere shifts. This is the witching hour, the time when the veil is thinnest. The air gets cold, not chilly, but a deep, penetrating cold that ignores your jacket. You can see your breath. The frost patterns on the glass front doors form shapes, sigils, screaming faces. I was sitting there trying to read a paperback book I've read 1,000 times to keep my mind tethered to reality when the automatic doors slid open. Whoosh! A blast of night air hit me. It smelled of sulfur and burning hair. I looked up. No one was there. The parking lot was empty. The streetlights flickered orange in the distance. "Welcome to the Obsidian Arms," I said, reciting the script. Checking in. Silence. Then, the luggage cart near the door moved. It rolled a few inches forward. Squeak, squeak.
My hand drifted to the drawer under the desk. I don't have a gun. Guns don't work here. Bullets just turn to ash. I have a flashlight with a UV bulb and a container of salt mixed with crushed iron. I need to see identification, I said to the empty space near the luggage cart. The pressure in the room dropped. My ears popped. The water in the vase of dead roses on the counter began to boil without heat. This is the part they don't tell you about in the creepypastas. The confrontation isn't always a monster screaming in your face. Sometimes it's a battle of wills against nothingness. It's the room trying to convince you that you don't exist, that you are the ghost. I focused on the logic. I focused on the rules. Rule number 3. Guests must present a form of payment before crossing the threshold of the carpet.
Payment, I demanded, my voice steady. A coin materialized on the counter. It spun, ringing with a sound that was too melodious, too perfect. It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It was a bone-white metal that seemed to absorb the light. I didn't touch it with my bare skin. I used a napkin to slide it into the register. Room 101, I said. Basement level. Do not use the elevator. Take the stairs. Do not look at the portraits in the stairwell. The luggage cart spun around and rolled toward the stairwell door. The door opened on its own, revealing a darkness so absolute it looked solid. The cart went in, the door closed. The temperature returned to normal. The boiling water stopped. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My hands were shaking. I looked down at the register. The bone coin was gone. In its place was a human tooth. This is the job. It's not the jump scares, it's the erosion. It's the fact that after a few months, a self-rolling luggage cart doesn't make you scream, it just makes you tired. You start to accept the impossible as mundane, and that is dangerous. Because the moment you get comfortable is the moment the hotel decides to eat you. I think the building is waking up. The groans in the pipes are getting louder. They sound like syllables now. The damp patches on the ceiling are forming words. Yesterday, above my desk, the mold spelled out my name. I'm writing this on the hotel stationery. The paper feels like dried skin. I'm writing this because I need you to understand the rules of liminal spaces. If you ever find yourself in a place that feels wrong, a place where the geometry doesn't add up, where the silence has a texture, don't stop. Don't look at the details. Don't try to figure it out. There is a concept called the call of the void, the urge to jump from a high place. Here, it's the call of the walls, the urge to lean against the wallpaper and just sink in, to become part of the structure, to let the drywall embrace you until you are just another bump in the texture, another shadow in the hallway, another employee who never clocked out. I have to go. The elevator is chiming. It's on the ground floor, but the indicator says it's on floor -6. We don't have a -6. And the doors are opening. I thought I had the rhythm down. I thought I was smarter than the contract. That is the first mistake everyone makes when they take the night shift at the Devil's Hotel. You get comfortable. You start thinking the rules are just spooky flavor text written by some bored middle manager in the underworld. You start thinking that if you just keep your head down and do your job, nothing from the dark will notice you. But the dark always notices you. I was on the 13th floor, the floor that doesn't exist on the elevator buttons unless you press 6 and 7 at the exact same time. It is the gray hallway. The wallpaper there smells like old copper and ozone, and the carpet is always slightly damp, like it's sweating. My task was simple. A linen exchange for room 1304. I had the cart, the wheels were squeaky, that was the only sound in the entire corridor. Squeak, thud, squeak, thud. The silence up there isn't empty, it is heavy. It presses against your eardrums like you are deep underwater. I recited the rules in my head to keep my heart rate down. Rule number 1, never look through the keyholes. Rule number 2,
If the ice machine is dispensing blood, put an out of order sign on it and walk away. Rule number 3, do not speak to the guests unless spoken to. And rule number 4, the rule I was currently navigating. Rule number 4 states, when walking the gray hallway, you must keep your eyes fixed on the door at the end of the corridor. You will hear things behind you. You will hear familiar voices. You will hear the sound of something rushing toward you. Do not stop, do not run, and under absolutely no circumstances do you look back. I was halfway to room 1304 when the air pressure dropped. My ears popped. The temperature plunged 20 degrees in a second. I could see my breath misting in the flickering yellow light of the sconces. Then I heard it. It started as a footstep, a heavy, wet slap against the carpet about 10 yards behind me. I gripped the handle of the linen cart until my knuckles turned white. Just keep walking, I told myself. It is just the acoustics. It is just the pipes settling. It is just your brain playing tricks on you because you have been awake for 30 hours straight. Slap, slap, slap. The footsteps were matching my pace, but they weren't echoes. An echo happens after you make a sound. These sounds were happening milliseconds before my own steps. Whatever was behind me was anticipating my movement. I fixed my eyes on the brass number plate of room 1304. It seemed miles away. The hallway was stretching. This is another thing they don't tell you in the orientation. The geometry of the hotel is fluid. It reacts to fear like a shark reacts to blood in the water.
The more scared you get, the longer the hallway becomes. The sound changed. It wasn't just footsteps anymore. It was breathing, a ragged, wet rattle, like someone trying to inhale through a throat full of fluid. It sounded like my grandfather in the hospice ward during his final hours. My stomach dropped. I knew that sound. The hotel was pulling memories out of my head and weaponizing them. "David?" a voice rasped. It was directly behind my left ear. I froze. That was the first breach of protocol. I stopped moving. The cart rattled to a halt. The rule says do not stop, but the voice was so clear. It was my brother. My brother who went missing in the Cascades 5 years ago. My brother whose body they never found. "David, help me," the voice whispered. It sounded broken. It sounded like he was in pain. It sounded so incredibly real. Every instinct in my human brain screamed at me to turn around, to help, to see. It is a biological imperative. When you hear a loved one in distress, you react. You don't think, you act. I started to turn my head, just an inch, just to see out of my peripheral vision. The moment I shifted my weight, the hallway lights buzzed violently. The hum of electricity grew to a deafening roar. The smell of copper intensified into the smell of rotting meat. Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back. The logical part of my brain was fighting a war against my emotions. I knew it wasn't him. I knew my brother was gone. I knew this was a skinwalker, a mimic, a demon, or something worse, wearing his voice like a suit. But the voice whimpered, "Please, David, it hurts." I turned. I didn't turn my whole body. I just turned my neck enough to look over my left shoulder. I didn't see my brother. I saw a shape, a towering, pale distortion of human anatomy. It touched the ceiling. It had too many joints in its limbs. Its skin looked like wet dough, stretched too tight over a frame that shouldn't exist. And it had no face, just a smooth, blank surface where eyes and a mouth should be. But even without eyes, I knew it was looking at me. I felt its gaze like a physical weight crushing my chest. The moment our line of sight connected, the thing let out a sound that I can only describe as a digital scream. It wasn't a noise made by vocal cords. It was the sound of a corrupted audio file, a high-pitched tear in reality that made my teeth vibrate. It lunged.
Panic is a funny thing. You think you will be a hero. You think you will fight, but you don't. You become an animal. I abandoned the cart. I abandoned the linen. I abandoned my dignity. I ran. The rules said do not run, but the rules were already broken. I had breached the contract. Now it was just predator and prey. I sprinted toward room 1304.
My boots slammed against the carpet. Behind me, the thing was moving with terrifying speed. I could hear its limbs impacting the walls and the floor, a chaotic scuttling sound like a giant spider made of meat. The hallway was still stretching. The door looked like it was moving away from me. I reached into my pocket for the master key card. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. If I dropped that card, I was dead. I would be just another missing person poster on a milk carton. Just another story on a Reddit thread that people read for entertainment while sitting safely in their beds. I could feel the cold emanating from the creature. It was right on my heels. I could hear the wet snapping of its joints. I threw myself at the door of 1304. I jammed the card into the slot. Red light. Denied. My heart stopped. I swiped again. Red light. I could feel the breath of the thing on my neck. It smelled like old graves and sulfur. Come on, I screamed. I swiped a third time. Green light. I shoved the door open and threw myself inside, slamming it shut and engaging the deadbolt just as a heavy weight collided with the wood from the other side. The door bowed inward. The wood groaned. The hinges shrieked. I scrambled backward, crab walking across the floor, until my back hit the far wall. I stared at the door. Silence. The screaming had stopped. The scuttling had stopped. I sat there in the dark, gasping for air, my lungs burning, my mind racing. I checked my watch. 3 a.m. 3 hours left on my shift. Then, a piece of paper slid under the door. I didn't want to pick it up. I really didn't. But I work for the hotel, and ignorance is not an excuse. I crawled over to the paper. It was a standard hotel stationery note. The handwriting was jagged and frantic. It looked like it had been written by a child holding a pen with a fist. It read, "You looked. Now we know your face. See you tomorrow night, David." I am writing this from the break room. My hands are still shaking. I don't know if I can quit. I don't think they let you quit. If you are reading this, and you ever find yourself working the night shift at a place that feels a little too quiet, and the rules tell you not to look back, listen to them. Because the worst part isn't what I saw in the hallway. The worst part is that now, every time I pass a mirror, every time I look into a dark window, I can see that pale, faceless thing standing just behind my reflection. And it is getting closer.
Rule number 4 stated clearly that if the lights in the corridor flicker twice and then turn a sickly, bruised shade of purple, the shift is over. It doesn't matter if you have towels to deliver or a guest screaming for room service. You drop everything. You find a place to hide. And you pray to whatever God you believed in before you signed the contract that the night manager doesn't smell your fear. I saw the flicker. 1, 2. Then the hallway plunged into that nauseating violet gloom. The air pressure dropped so fast my ears popped and the temperature spiked. It went from a chilly hotel corridor to a sauna smelling of sulfur and wet dog hair in a heartbeat. The hunt had begun. I didn't run immediately. Running triggers the predator drive. That's survival 101, whether you're dealing with a bear in a national park or a skinwalker in the Appalachian woods. You move with purpose. You move with silence. I was on the 13th floor, the floor that doesn't exist on the elevator buttons, but somehow always ends up being where the linen closet is. The hallway stretched out in front of me, an infinite tunnel of Baroque wallpaper and damp carpet. The pattern on the walls, looping, screaming faces woven into the paisley, seemed to be writhing in the purple light. My boots, rubber-soled and bought specifically for silence, made zero noise on the carpet, but I could hear him, or it, the night manager. It started as a sound like wet leather slapping against tile.
Slap, drag, slap, drag, coming from the elevators. He was heavy, he was slow, but he was thorough. I needed a room, but not just any room. Rule number 9 says never hide in a room with a number ending in 3. 3 is an unstable prime in this purgatory. The geometry of those rooms doesn't hold up when the manager is near. You'll fall through the floor and end up in the boiler room, and nobody comes back from the boiler room. I scanned the brass plaques on the doors. 1303, 1313, 1323. Damn it, every room in this sector ended in 3. The hallway was mocking me. The hotel was shifting its layout, trying to serve me up on a silver platter. This is what they don't tell you in the orientation pamphlet. The building is alive, and it hates you. It's like the back rooms, but with a malicious intelligence. The slapping sound got louder, faster. A wet, gurgling wheeze accompanied it, like a drain trying to swallow a thick sludge. I saw a service door at the end of the hall, unmarked, painted the same beige as the trim. I lunged for it, gripping the cold knob. Locked. Of course it was locked. The slapping stopped. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Silence is worse than the noise. Silence means he's listening.
I pressed my back against the wall, sliding down until I was crouched. I remembered the master key card in my pocket. The plastic felt slippery with my sweat. I didn't want to swipe it. The electronic beep of the lock would be like a dinner bell in this silence. But I had no choice. I stood up, agonizingly slow. I brought the card to the reader of the service door. Beep. It sounded like a gunshot. Down the hall, the shadows lurched. Something stepped out of the violet gloom. It looked like a man, vaguely. It wore a tuxedo that was 3 sizes too small, the fabric straining against bloated gray flesh. Its arms were too long, dragging on the carpet, fingers tipped with obsidian claws that clicked as they twitched. Where a face should have been, there was just a smooth, flat surface of skin, save for a vertical slit that oozed black bile. The night manager. It turned its head toward the beep. The slit opened, revealing rows of needle teeth, and it let out a sound that I can only describe as a dial-up modem screaming in agony. I threw the door open, dove inside, and slammed it shut, engaging the deadbolt just as a heavy weight slammed against the wood from the other side. The impact shook the fillings in my teeth. Wood splintered. I was in a janitorial closet. Mops, buckets, the smell of industrial bleach, and something metallic, like old blood. It was tight, claustrophobic, but it was solid. "Little employee," a voice crooned from the other side of the door. It wasn't the monster's voice. It was my mother's voice. This is the psychological warfare part, the mimicry. Just like the stories from the deep woods, the things that call your name from the tree line. "Open up, honey," the voice said, sweet and trembling. "I brought you some leftovers. You work too hard." My mother has been dead for 5 years. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted iron. Pain grounds you. Pain reminds you what is real. "Go away," I whispered, barely audible. "Don't be rude," the voice shifted. Now it was my boss, the old manager who hired me. "Open this door or I'm writing you up for insubordination. This is coming out of your paycheck." The doorknob rattled violently. The wood groaned. I backed away, deeper into the closet, until my heels hit a metal grate, a laundry chute. Rule number 12. The laundry chute is a one-way trip, but it connects to the basement. The basement is dangerous, but the hallway is death. The door hinges screamed. One of them popped, flying across the small room and hitting the sink with a ping. He was breaking in. I scrambled to open the chute. It was rusted shut. I clawed at the latch, my fingernails tearing. "I can smell you." The voice changed again.
This time, it was a deep, guttural growl. "You smell like fear."
"You smell like sin." The top hinge gave way. The door hung crookedly, revealing the violet light and the massive gray shoulder of the entity. A long, pale hand snaked through the gap, blind, groping for me. I kicked the latch of the chute with my heel, once, twice. It gave way with a screech of rusted metal. I didn't look back. I threw myself feet first into the darkness of the chute just as the door exploded inward. I fell. The slide was steep, slick with grime and grease. I tumbled through the dark, banging my elbows and knees against the metal sides. The air rushed past me, smelling of dirty linen and rot. It felt like I was falling for minutes, deeper into the bowels of the hotel. I hit the pile of laundry at the bottom with a bone-jarring thud. I lay there for a second, gasping for air. The room was dark, lit only by a single flickering fluorescent bulb that hummed aggressively. I was in the laundry room. Massive industrial washers lined the walls, sitting silent and menacing like sleeping giants. I rolled off the pile of sheets. They were wet, sticky. I didn't want to know why. I needed to move. The night manager wouldn't fit down the chute, but he would take the stairs. I had maybe 3 minutes before he reached the basement level. I checked my watch. The glass was cracked, but the second hand was still ticking. 3:33 a.m. The witching hour. The worst possible time to be in the basement. I stood up, my legs shaking. The layout of the basement was a labyrinth of pipes and steam tunnels. I needed to get to the maintenance elevator on the far side. I took a step, and my boots squelched. The floor wasn't just wet, it was covered in a thin layer of water. No, not water. I looked closer in the dim light. It was dark, viscous. Oil? No, it was ink. Black, shimmering ink flooding the floor. I froze. I remembered a rule I had glossed over. Rule number 52. If the basement floods with ink, do not look at your reflection in it. I kept my eyes up, fixed on the far wall. The ink was rising. It was already over the soles of my boots. I started wading. The liquid was freezing cold, numbing my toes through the rubber. The hum of the washing machine started to change. It wasn't a mechanical hum anymore. It was a low chanting. Thousands of voices whispering in a language that hurt my brain to listen to. "Don't look down, don't look down," I chanted to myself. I reached the middle of the room. The ink was at my ankles. The whispering grew louder. "Look at us," the voices hissed. "See what you really are." I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, stumbling forward. I hit my shin against a laundry cart and yelped. The whispering stopped instantly. Then a new sound, from the far corner of the room, in the shadows behind the dryers.
Drip, drip, drip. Something was rising out of the ink. I forced myself to keep moving, faster now, splashing through the black sludge. I could see the maintenance elevator. The call button was glowing a faint, hopeful green. I reached it and mashed the button. The gears groaned. The elevator was coming from the top floor. It would take time, too much time. I turned around, back to the elevator doors, pulling my flashlight from my belt. I clicked it on. The beam cut through the gloom. Standing in the middle of the room, rising from the ink, were figures. They looked like statues made of obsidian, slick and black. They had no faces, just smooth oval heads. There were dozens of them, silent, motionless. But every time the fluorescent light flickered, they moved. Flicker, they were 10 feet closer. Flicker, 5 feet. Weeping angel style, don't blink, don't look away. But I had to watch the ink too. The sensory overload was blinding. My eyes burned. The smell of the ink was overpowering,
like crushed beetles and ozone. The elevator dinged behind me, the sweetest sound I had ever heard. The doors slid open. I stepped backward, keeping my flashlight trained on the ink figures. They were now only a few yards away, their arms reaching out. I hit the button for the lobby. As the doors began to close, the light flickered one last time. In that split second of darkness, they rushed. I saw a black hand grasp the edge of the elevator door, trying to pry it back open. The metal groaned under the pressure. The fingers were long, inhuman, made of the same dark liquid. I kicked the hand with everything I had. My boot connected with a sickening splash, shattering the ink fingers. The hand recoiled. The doors slammed shut. The elevator lurched upward. I collapsed against the wall, sliding down to the floor. My breathing was ragged, sounding like a broken bellows. I checked my body. Bruises, scrapes, covered in God knows what from the chute, but alive. The elevator music started playing. Soft elevator jazz. The Girl from Ipanema. The normalcy of it was almost more terrifying than the silence. I watched the floor numbers tick up. B1, 1, 2. I wasn't safe yet. The hunt doesn't end until the sun comes up or you reach the sanctuary room on the 7th floor. The elevator shuddered and stopped at the 4th floor. I didn't press 4. The doors didn't open. Instead, the speaker system crackled. Going up? It was the night manager's voice, crystal clear. I stopped breathing. I held my breath until my lungs burned. I know you're in there, the voice purred. I can hear your heart. It beats like a little drum. Bum bum, bum bum. There was a scratching sound on the roof of the elevator car, metal on metal. He was on top of the car.
I looked up at the escape hatch in the ceiling. The latch began to turn, slowly. I scrambled to the corner of the elevator, pulling my box cutter from my pocket. It was a pathetic weapon against a demon, but it was all I had. The hatch popped open. A gray, hairless head hung upside down into the cabin. The slit on its face opened, revealing those needle teeth. Found you. I didn't think, I reacted. I threw the flashlight at its face. It connected with a solid crack. The entity shrieked, retracting its head for a split second. I lunged for the panel and hit the emergency alarm button. Not because I expected help, but because of Rule 22, loud noises disorient the staff. The alarm blared, a high-pitched, ear-splitting siren. The creature on the roof screamed in unison, a sound of pure frustration. The elevator shook violently as it jumped off, the cables twanging like guitar strings. The car plummeted for a second, engaging the emergency brakes with a violent jerk that threw me to the floor. Then, silence. Just the ringing in my ears. The doors slid open. I was on the 7th floor, sanctuary. I crawled out of the elevator onto the pristine white carpet of the sanctuary hallway. Here, the lights were warm gold. The smell was of lavender and beeswax. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, gasping for air. I survived the hide and seek. But as I lay there, waiting for my heart rate to drop below 150, I noticed something on my boot. A single drop of the black ink. It wasn't drying. It was moving. It was seeping into the leather, disappearing inside. And then I felt it. A cold, tiny prick against my skin, inside my sock. I sat up, ripping my boot off. My skin was clean, but underneath the surface, deep in the veins of my ankle, I could see a black thread moving, swimming upstream toward my heart. The game wasn't over. It had just changed levels. I grabbed my radio. "Dispatch," I croaked. "This is Unit 4. I've been marked, requesting immediate quarantine protocol." The radio crackled, static, then a voice. "Copy that, Unit 4. Remain where you are. The cleaning crew is on their way."
I lowered the radio. The cleaning crew isn't who you call when you want to be saved. The cleaning crew is who you call when you want to be erased. I stood up. I had to run again. Because in this hotel, the only rule that matters is the one they never write down. You don't quit the Devil's Hotel. You just expire.
The grandfather clock in the lobby didn't chime to mark the end of my shift. It never does. Instead, it lets out a low, guttural vibration that you feel in your teeth rather than hear in your ears. That happens at exactly 5:59 a.m. That's the signal. The management doesn't pay for overtime, and you really don't want to be here when the sun comes up. Not because the guests are vampires or anything that cliched. It's because when the sun hits the stained glass of the Devil's Hotel, the geometry of the lobby changes. If you're still standing on the checkered floor at 6:01 a.m., you become part of the architecture. I think the gargoyle on the north cornice used to be the night porter from 1987. I didn't run. That's rule number 1 of the clock out protocol. Never run. Prey runs. Employees walk with purpose. I gathered my things, keeping my eyes strictly on the heavy oak doors. My uniform was soaked in cold sweat, sticking to my back like a second skin. I could feel them watching me. The guests, the things in the shadows of the mezzanine. They know when your protection is fading. The contract states that employee immunity wears off the second you punch that time card. My hand hovered over the brass punch clock. My fingers were shaking. Not trembling, violently shaking. It took me 3 tries to slide the card into the slot. The machine made a sound like a bone snapping. That was it. I was technically unemployed until 9 p.m. tomorrow, but I wasn't out yet. I walked toward the revolving doors. I could hear the concierge, Mr. Blackwood, shuffling papers behind the mahogany desk. I didn't say goodbye. You don't acknowledge them on the way out. If you say goodnight, you're inviting them to follow you. I just kept my eyes forward, focusing on the smudge of grease on the glass of the door. Pushing through the revolving door is the hardest part. It feels like pushing through deep water. The air pressure in the hotel is different, heavier, ancient. As I cycled through to the cool morning mist of the parking lot, my ears popped violently. The silence of the outside world hit me like a physical blow. No screaming from the elevator shafts, no scratching inside the walls. Just the distant hum of the highway and the chirping of crickets that sounded too mechanical to be real. I made it to my car. It's a beat-up 2008 Honda, a rust bucket that looks out of place next to the sleek black hearses and vintage Rolls Royces usually parked in the lot. I fumbled with my keys. This is the moment where most people die. They relax too soon. They think the asphalt means safety. It doesn't. I checked the back seat before I unlocked the door. Clear. I checked underneath the chassis. Clear. I got in and locked the doors immediately.
Rule number 4 of leaving: do not adjust your mirrors until you are 5 miles away. I don't know why, and I don't want to know. I just know that Dave, the guy who worked here before me, adjusted his rearview mirror in the parking lot and saw something sitting in the passenger seat that wasn't there when he looked directly. Dave doesn't have eyes anymore. I turned the ignition. The engine sputtered. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Please, not now, not here. The shadows from the hotel entrance seemed to be stretching, reaching toward the car like fingers made of smoke. The engine caught on the second try. I threw it into reverse and peeled out of there, gravel spraying against the wheel wells. I drove. I didn't look back. I merged onto the interstate, the speedometer creeping past 80. The transition from purgatory to the suburbs is subtle. The fog thins out, the sky shifts from a bruised purple to a pale, washed-out gray. You start seeing familiar signs: a 24-hour diner, a gas station with flickering neon lights. I pulled into a Shell station about 20 miles out. I needed coffee. I needed to wash the smell of sulfur and old blood off my hands. The kid behind the counter looked at me like I was a ghost. Maybe I looked like one. Pale skin, dark circles, a uniform that smelled like a funeral home. I bought a pack of cigarettes and a black coffee. The transaction felt alien. Handing over physical cash, getting change, it felt so mundane compared to the currency we deal with at the hotel. Souls, memories, years of your life.
I sat in my car under the harsh fluorescent lights of the gas pump canopy. I checked my phone. No signal. That's normal. It takes about an hour for the electronics to sync back up with standard time. The hotel exists in a bubble, a hiccup in the timeline. I took a sip of the coffee. It burned my tongue, and the pain was grounding. It proved I was alive. But was I? That's the thought that always haunts me on the drive home. The lingering doubt. Did I actually make it out? Or is this just another room? Room 666, the infinite gas station. A psychological torture chamber designed to make me think I'm safe before the floor drops out. I looked at the digital clock on the dashboard. 6:45 a.m. The numbers weren't melting. That was a good sign. I made it to my apartment complex around 7:15. It's a crappy walk up on the edge of town, but it's mine. I unlocked my front door and did the sweep. Closet, shower, under the bed. Safe. I stripped off my uniform and threw it directly into the washing machine. I set it to the hottest setting. You have to boil the residue off. I stood in the shower for 45 minutes, scrubbing, trying to get the feeling of the hotel off me.
I closed my eyes and I could still see the hallway of the 13th floor. I could still hear the weeping coming from the ice machine. It sticks to you. The trauma isn't just a memory, it's a residue, a spiritual grime. I dried off and sat on the edge of my bed. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion that made my limbs feel like lead. I should sleep. I have to be back there in 12 hours. But I can't close my eyes. Every time I blink, I see the manager's smile. Too wide, too many teeth. I walked to the window and peered out through the blinds. The sun was fully up now. People were walking their dogs, kids were waiting for the school bus. Normalcy. It felt offensive. How can they just live like this? How can they worry about taxes and groceries when I know what's waiting for them on the other side? When I know what sleeps in the basement of reality? I checked my bank account on my phone. The deposit had hit. $3,000 for one night. It's a lot of money. Enough to make you ignore the screams. Enough to make you forget the rules for a few hours. But is it enough to buy back my soul? I don't think so. I'm writing this now because I need a record. I need you to know I'm real. I need you to know the hotel is real. And I need to warn you about the last thing I saw before I left. As I was driving away, just before the fog broke, I saw a hitchhiker on the side of the road. That's not unusual. But as my headlights swept over him, I saw his face. It was me, wearing my uniform, standing perfectly still, staring at my car with hollowed-out eyes. I didn't stop. I sped up. But now, sitting here in my apartment, hearing the familiar creak of the floorboards in the hallway outside my door, I have a terrible feeling. There is a rule I forgot. Rule number 9 in the employee handbook. If you see your doppelganger on the road, do not go home. Go to a church, go to a holy site. Do not lead it to your safe space. I came straight home. The doorknob is turning. It's a slow, deliberate twist. I locked it. I know I locked it. But the lock on my apartment door is nothing compared to the forces I deal with at work. I'm typing this fast. My hands are cramping. If this is it, if this is how I clock out permanently, then listen to me. Stay away from the Devil's Hotel. If you see a job listing for a night auditor with pay that seems too good to be true, scroll past it. Don't look at the address. The door is opening. It's not forced. It's just opening, like I invited someone in. I'm going to grab the knife from the kitchen. It won't work, but I have to try. I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. Wait. The person in the doorway, it's not my doppelganger. It's worse. It's Mr. Blackwood, the concierge. He's holding my time card.
"You forgot to punch out properly," he says. His voice sounds like grinding stones. "We need you back. The shift isn't over." I'm looking at the clock on my wall. It's spinning backwards. The sun outside the window is flickering out like a dying light bulb. The normal world is dissolving. The walls of my apartment are bleeding into the wallpaper of the hotel lobby. I
never left. I never made it to the car. I'm still in the lobby. I've been standing here for hours, staring at the wall, hallucinating my escape. The grandfather clock is about to chime. I have to go. There are guests arriving, and they look hungry. This is the Night Auditor, signing off, probably for the last time.